and welcome to another Parts Factory Australia installation tutorial video. Today we're going to be working on this Hyundai Tucson. Specifically, we're going to be swapping out the alternator. Now this tutorial can be used for any cars such as Getz, Sportage, Cerato, Alternator, because they all mount at the front, but however 4-cylinder only. So if you've got a V6 Tucson or Sportage, then this one won't work for you. But yeah, as I said, all of your 4-cylinder, we'll put them in the title. This tutorial will work for all of those specific cars. I'm expecting it's going to take about half an hour. Now, it might take you a little longer. I've done this a few times back in my wrecking yard days, so I'm pretty quick at it. But basically, we're going to be removing the coolant overflow tank, the radiator fan only. We're going to move the radiator hose out of the way. Other than that, we'll get in there, loosen off the fan belt, wiggle the alternator, pull it out, put the new one in, start her up and drive her out. So yeah, pretty much get straight into this one. Oh, but before we go, I will remind you, Parts Factory Australia has this product available. I'll show you what it looks like. So it's just here. If you've seen our videos before, you know we stock high quality aftermarket replicas. They include a 3-year warranty. So if it's quality you're worried about, you don't have to worry when you purchase through us, because we have a guaranteed 3-year warranty on every single car part we sell at the shop. So that's the one there. Pretty straightforward, guys. You got your plug, little 13mm, little 12mm on the top. I think this one's a 13mm from memory, but we'll see it, check it out as we go, I guess. Alrighty, let's jump into the job. Right, so I got the twin akimbo torch set up just so we can see down there a bit better. But cruise over here and I'll show them what we need to do to start. If you are working on a Tucson, you're going to have this coolant tank. If you're not, you might have more room. You might not necessarily remove all this stuff. So I'm going to do like a half-half sort of job. I'm going to do a little time lapse of pulling all this apart. Basically, you got two 10mm here, little clamp here to pull that radiator hose out of the way. We'll just tuck it out of the way over there. Then this fan just has two 10mm on the top. Pull it up, but to do that you'll have to pull this air intake pipe. That's literally just two Phillips head screws, tuck it out of the way. Pretty easy job. I'll time lapse the whole thing just so you can see how I do it. But yeah, if you've got an Alternator or a Getz, you might not necessarily have to do all this. You might just have to maybe remove the fan shroud, which won't have anything covering it, so you've got an easier version of the job. Let's get into it. I'm done. Right, so as you can see, we now have heaps of area to get in there to get this alternator out. The next step is your main plug. You can just depress that, push it in, then wiggle it out. Other than that, you got a little 13mm on your main positive output, or 13 or 12, we're going to find out in a sec. Bring our 12mm down. It's already in loosen mode. Yep, 12mm, so we're just going to loosen that off. Try not to lose your nut. Remember to bring it back up here. Okay, so that now means we now have our positive terminal off. You can just pull these off like that. Same thing here. You can actually bring your wire up right out of the way. Put your little protective plastic over the top of that. Right, so your alternator's literally just sitting there now. It's held on by 2 bolts. The first one is your belt tensioner nut. Super duper easy. You're going to bring your little wrench around here, loosen it off a fraction if your rattle gun works. You can see how the alternator moves. Once it's moved this fraction, you can come in here and remove this main nut. Now, the alternator is actually only sitting there on the bottom nut. You can leave that tensioner nut just there, and you can actually remove this little piece. This is your belt tensioner bracket. So the alternator will now just move freely like that. So you can actually just bring your hand around, if you can. I'm trying to allow you guys to see at the same time. You can bring your hand around like that and just pull the belt off, and then the alternator just pops down. You can see it just wobbles like so. Now let's try not to lose the belt off the crank pulley or anything like that. We want to leave it all on there so that when we've got the new alternator on, we can just come in and obviously just put the belt straight back on without having to put on anything else. All right, so your final bolt is that one just down there. You can see it. I'm putting the torch right on it. It might be a little hard to see, but on this car it's actually loose, surprisingly. So I can pull that nut straight off. So I've pulled that little bracket, pulled the bolt this way, but yeah, of course, as I said, it hits about here. So what you do, have your mate or have someone pull that like that, and then the bolt will come out, and then yeah, that's it. All right, so now I'll put my hand through on this side. Look at this little bolt, and out she comes. Straight out. Yep. So here it is here. That's all you're grabbing. As I said, hits that plastic, so you just pull that plastic, alternator out, back in, done. So obviously now that bottom bolt's out, as you can imagine, give the alternator a wiggle. Voila! Alrighty, so depending on your car, that will have either taken 10 minutes or half an hour if you've got a Tucson, but other than that, you can now see that we've got it out. As you can see, they are a direct replica. We use only high quality components at Parts Factory, because otherwise we're going to be replacing things earlier than 3 years, which does us no justice. So definitely check out our product. We'll leave the link in the bottom of the video. Just click the title, pop down, click the link, cruise over to the website. You're expecting free postage, of course we have that. You're expecting in 3 days, of course it's going to happen. We're the fastest in Australia for deliveries for car parts, so definitely cruise on, check it out. You won't be disappointed. Alrighty, let's throw it back on. Alrighty, so as you can imagine, it's the same procedure, but in reverse. Sometimes it can be a little bit harder to reassemble. So it's now time to put our bottom bolt back in, as we expected.
Get your mate to pull it again.
Yeah, pull the trim. Might be a little bit harder to line it up, as you can imagine. Right, so we got our little bottom bolt through. It's now time to put our 2 washers and a nut on the end so that the alternator can tip up and down on that axis. We'll stick our little torch back down in the hole, grab our required nuts and bolts, which is your 2 washers and your little 12mm. Bring it back down. Right, so I got the bolt hand tight. Now it's time to bring a little wrench down. Of course, now you don't want to fully tighten that. You just want to leave it, you know, maybe 1 click, because it's now time to put our dam belt on, which of course, you remember, as we didn't take it off any of the other components, we should just simply be able to bring it past the alternator pulley and hopefully rest it there. Before you go any further, check to make sure it hasn't fallen off anything else, which mine has fallen off the harmonic balancer. Right, so we've got the fan belt back on. We've done up the rear bottom bolt. The alternator is still able to be moved. Now it's time to put our little tensioner bracket back in. Not as difficult as you think. It's literally just place this part of it here like that, and stab this bolt through, and you can just wiggle it around till you line it up with your alt. One thing's first, actually, I did just forget to tell you, pull this right out. If you pull it right out, it's going to be much easier to get it back in. So again, just putting the little end of it in there, if you can. Oh, it can be a bit of a pain, and then you're just stabbing this other bolt into the alternator. Right, so once you've got the bolt in, it's now time to tighten it up a little bit, and you can also do the tensioner tighten, etc. You notice as you do that, the alternator pulls in this direction, so you actually got to put your hand through here and get the belt to the correct tension, which is about 1 millimeter of movement when you push down on it. No more than that, no less either. Once you've got the correct tension, it's time to tighten up your main bolt at the top. Now you might have to use a little wrench because it will be tightening onto the aluminium of the alternator itself. Okay, so you've tightened up your two main bolts, your fan belts to the correct tension. It's now time to bring our few little plugs back over. Now, my car's going to the wreckers, so I'm not going to be doing all these clamps and whatever too much, but I just do it so I demonstrate where it all goes back. It goes there, blah, 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 blah. And then you've got your little 12 mil positive terminal. You grab your 12 mil nut, bring it down to your 12 mil terminal, put the nut on, and then face the wire downhill. You can now grab your little wrench, and of course we're gonna, hopefully your little wrench works, but it should be pretty tight, not too tight where you snap the terminal off, otherwise you'll be buying another alternator off us. Once you got that on, you can put your plug in. And as you can see, that would therefore mean the alternator is replaced back in and she's ready to go. Okay guys, so your alternator is back in. So as you can imagine, we now need to reassemble this whole front end here. Same thing, but in reverse order. We're going to bring our fan shroud back in. Remember, it was a little bit of a pain in the ass to get out. We could technically do way more damage to the radiator on the way back in. So just be nice and slow, gentle. It should just literally pop in like so. Remember, you've got two clips down the bottom you need to line up. So you look from your left to your right, making sure that both the clips line up, and look at that, the whole thing's back in nice and easy. Don't forget you have 3 10 mil nuts that fix this fan shroud onto your radiator. Super important that it all goes back together properly for proper cooling. You got 1 10 mil there, 1 10 mil in the guts, and 1 over here. Swapping out your tool. One, 2, 1 over here. That one doesn't want to tighten up properly, but it's not my problem. You now have your last little main harness plug for the fan. Super duper important. That goes back in. Red alert, do not forget that. And then guys, your radiator hose, remember it pops in there like that. This, be nice and gentle as you put it back on your radiator. Do not force it. The correct pliers, you need ones that adjust, maybe even all the way out, so that this just is super easy and straightforward. You can re-grip, start again, pop it into second mode actually, so it gets those alligator clips right in. You can use your hands, drag it over, putting it in the same place it once was. You can even give it a little pull just to make sure it's all on properly. Now we had this little hose, of course it clips in here like this. I think it also went there like that, did it? Yep. Oh, yep, I remember now. This came off. Placing that through the gap. Once you get it through, it'll be easy to pull it through, so like so. Remember, that goes to your overflow tank. Pops off like that, something like that. And then remember our little tank. This pops on here, making sure you haven't done any damage. There's no cracks or anything, because you don't want to be losing all your coolant. Although my car has no coolant. And then yeah, this little tank pops back down here, and it takes two 10 mils to line it back up. Put them in by finger. Line them up with your eyes. In by hand, 1 and 2. They should both screw in with ease. Once you've started the screw, you can finish it with your tool or weapon of choice. I've got this one here. As you near the end, slow down. You can hear it tighten up nice. That one's tight as well. Fill it back up with coolant if you lost coolant, which you will have, and that would be job complete. Oh, one last thing. You got your little air intake tube. You can put it in over this side first, and of course, tuck it in like that. These clips won't require a Phillips head. You literally just place them in, push down, place it in, push down. Put your negative battery terminal back on, cool it in, prime your system. Find another YouTube video to prime your system properly. Don't go the cheap and easy way and not do it. And start your car, and that's job finished. Alrighty guys, that would be job complete. Now the whole job took about 35 minutes. The hardest part was the bottom bolt with the trim piece. You had to move out of the way, blah, 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 blah. But now that you're finished, I'm hoping that everything's all sorted. Start the car up. Remember to put your terminal back on properly, tighten it down correctly. But other than that, the job's complete, so happy days. Guys, I hope you appreciate this video. I also hope that you've saved hundreds of dollars doing it yourself. That's what we're all about here at Parts Factory. Teaching you how to replace your own parts. That way in the future, not only have you saved money, you've also basically trained yourself to be an on-the-side mechanic, which is always good to have that skill. Okay guys, my name's Lucas Drabsch. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.